Welcome everyone, my name is Sergeant Ben Carter. For more than 20 years I've served with the Northwood Police Department, and for most of those years Precinct 9 was my second home. It's a place built on routine, on the hum of vending machines and the rhythmic static of police radios. We run on black coffee and adrenaline, the kind of place where you learn to compartmentalize. You see things that can break a man, but you just put them in a mental box and keep going. That's how we survive. That's how we keep the city safe. But some things don't fit in a box. They sit in your gut, changing you from the inside out. And one of those things for me was a dog, an old Labrador retriever to be precise. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind of morning that's so cold it feels like the air itself is trying to freeze your thoughts. I was halfway through my second cup of bitter precinct coffee, the kind that can strip paint, when I heard a shout from the front lobby. "Sarge, there's a dog, he's down," Officer Ethan, our newest rookie, yelled. Now, Ethan isn't the panicky type. His voice was a mix of shock and quiet urgency. I stood up so fast I knocked over my chair, the loud clatter cutting through the quiet hum of the station. By the time I got to the glass doors of Precinct 9, I froze. There, slumped against the concrete steps, was a golden Labrador retriever. His ribs were like coat hangers beneath his matted fur, and he was panting a shallow, desperate rhythm. One of his front legs was curled unnaturally beneath him, as if it had simply given out mid-step. My throat tightened, but not from the sight of his injury. It was his eyes. They weren't wide with fear. They weren't glazed with pain. They were just tired. An old soul, tired like he'd walked the last mile of a journey only he understood, and this was where he decided it could end. We rushed outside, no sirens, no yelling, just a quiet, focused kind of urgency. Officer Maria Sanchez, a woman whose scowl could make criminals confess, was the first to reach him. Her touch was surprisingly gentle as she knelt down, ignoring the cold concrete. "He needs water now," she barked, but her voice held a softness I'd never heard before. As she lowered herself to his level, she noticed a faded leather collar frayed near the buckle, barely holding on. Attached to it was a small, battered metal tag. It didn't look like a license plate or a microchip ID. It looked homemade, hand-etched with something sharp. Ethan carefully flipped it over and squinted. He read it aloud, his voice barely a whisper in the silent air. "If you're reading this, I made it." We all just froze. That phrase, so simple, so human. It felt like a gut punch wrapped in a glimmer of hope. It was a message, a promise. This dog hadn't wandered here by accident. He had come here on purpose. He had been on a mission, and this was the finish line. We carried him inside, no hesitation, no protocol. The holding cell became a triage room. Maria grabbed an old fleece blanket from the break room. We brought him a bowl of water, and he licked once, then again, slow and deliberate, like someone who knew every drop might count. We started calling him Tag, because that tiny piece of metal had spoken for him before he could. By the end of the shift, Tag had become a fixture. He didn't bark, didn't whine. He just watched us, each of us, as if studying our rhythms, our roles. He especially liked the window in the briefing room, where he could watch the coming and going of every patrol car. It was like he'd served before, a veteran of a different kind of war. "You think he's a retired K-9? Ethan asked. I nodded. Maybe. Or maybe he belonged to one. That night I came back to the station even though I wasn't on call. I just couldn't sleep. I found myself sitting on the cold tile next to Tag, watching his chest rise and fall under a borrowed blanket. Someone had taped a sticky note to the desk above his head. "Do not disturb. He's earned it." I didn't pet him. I just sat there. He opened one eye, gave a small huff through his nose, and let it close again. "You're safe now," I whispered. The next morning, things had shifted. There was awareness in his gaze now, recognition. He tilted his ears toward the printer noise like it mattered. He even tried to stand, only to collapse softly back into his bed, not in defeat, but in a measured pacing of himself. Word spread around the precinct. Even our chief, a man known for his strict no animals on sight policy, walked in with a McGriddle set, half of it on the floor beside Tag, and walked away without a word. But who was he? Why had he come here, and what exactly had he made? The questions buzzed in our minds. We had a dog, a message, and a mystery that was getting more profound by the minute. Our investigation had only just begun. The days bled into weeks, and our small, silent guest Tag became the heartbeat of Precinct 9. The mystery of his past, however, was a knot we couldn't untie. We'd put out flyers, called every local shelter, and even posted his photo on the department's website. Nothing. He had no microchip, no official tags, nothing but that small, hand-scratched piece of metal. It was as if he had arrived from nowhere carrying only his message and his quiet presence. Maybe he was a ghost, Officer Sanchez joked one afternoon, but we all knew it wasn't a joke. There was something almost supernatural about his determination. Then came the breakthrough, and like most things that matter, it arrived without fanfare. It was a Wednesday when the envelope came. No name, no return address, just a plain, slightly yellowed envelope slipped into our daily mail pile with Precinct 9 typed neatly on the front. Normally junk mail went straight to the shredder, but this one felt different. It had a weight that wasn't just paper. Officer Ethan found it first. He tore the flap carefully and pulled out a single photograph. We all gathered around the bullpen table, our heads close together like kids around a campfire. In the photo, a young Labrador puppy, bright-eyed and already proud, sat beside a small boy covered in mud. They were both smiling, the boy missing a front tooth. You could almost hear their laughter through the still image. Scribbled in the corner in faint blue ink were 4 words, 1995 Northwood, my partner. It felt like someone had just placed the first puzzle piece on the table. Northwood? I asked, my brow furrowed. That was decades ago. But that wasn't the point. The point was someone wanted us to see this. Someone knew Tag. Someone was telling us he wasn't always alone. We pinned the photo right above his bed next to the dispatch board. When Tag saw it, his ears perked. He sniffed the air, then curled into a tighter ball, resting his chin on his paw. A soft grunt escaped his throat like recognition, or maybe grief, or both. Over the next few days, we made copies of the photo and put them everywhere in the break room near the lockers, even tacked one near the coffee machine with a sticky note that read, "Have you seen this dog before?" And then she did it. Our station secretary, Evelyn. Let's be honest, Evelyn knows more about this town than our entire intel unit. She came rushing into the bullpen waving a sticky note, breathless. "You're not going to believe this," she said. She had called around, looked into housing registries, and found a name, David Thompson. A retired K-9 handler, a former officer from our own department, had moved back to Northwood 2 years ago after his wife passed away. He kept to himself quiet. It was a name that rang no bells until now. I called the number Evelyn gave me. The phone rang once, twice, then a slow, wheezing voice answered. Thompson residence. "Hi, sir. My name's Sergeant Ben Carter, Precinct 9. I think we may have found your dog." There was a silence long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then the voice cracked. You found him." The knot of the mystery was beginning to unravel. We had a name. We had a face from the past. And we had an old man whose voice held a pain so deep it could only come from a place of profound love and loss. We were about to find out exactly what Tag's journey was all about, and the story was far more heartbreaking than we could have ever imagined. David Thompson showed up that same afternoon. He was in his 70s, maybe 80, with a wiry frame hidden under a worn army jacket and a ball cap pulled low. He walked with a limp that told stories he probably never spoke about. When he stepped into the station, we didn't need to point the way. Tag was already up, slow and unsteady, but up. His eyes were locked on the door like he knew exactly who was coming. David froze when he saw him. "Oh my God," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You're still alive." Tag limped forward, his tail wagging, slow, heavy, but sure. When David knelt, wincing from the pain, Tag pressed his head into the old man's chest and just stayed there. No barking, no jumping, just stillness and quiet sobbing. We gave them space. No one needed to film it. No one needed to post it. Some things belong to the moment, not the internet. Later, David sat at our break room table, nursing a cup of tea like it was the only thing holding him together. "His name is Lucky," David said, his voice softer now. "But my wife always called him Tag because he never left my side, always tagging along. That hit us hard. I lost him during the move," David continued, wiping his eyes with a trembling hand. "He got spooked, took off. I searched for weeks, flyers, calls to shelters, everything. But nothing." He paused, a look of distant sadness in his eyes. "Eventually I figured he found a quiet place to lay down. Never thought it would be a police station." I said gently, "Maybe he was just trying to find the closest thing left to home." David nodded, his eyes distant. "We used to visit precincts. I was K-9 for almost 40 years. He knew the smell of officers, knew the rhythm of the radios. Maybe he just followed the sound of the badge." We all knew what question was coming next. David looked up, tear-streaked and sincere. "I'd love to take him home," he said softly. "But I need to be honest with you. I've got stage 4 lung cancer. My doctors," he swallowed hard, "they said I don't have long. I just wanted to see him again." We sat in a heavy silence. Then Officer Sanchez, the toughest among us, said it plain and true. "Then he stays here, as long as he needs. This is his home now, too." David looked like we'd just taken 40 pounds off his back. He came by every few days after that, sometimes strong enough to walk in on his own, sometimes dropped off by a neighbor when he couldn't make it. He mailed in cards, handwritten notes, photos of their younger days. Tag would sniff the envelopes and nuzzle into them like they were still warm. He was in his final mission now, not to patrol the streets, but to patrol our hearts. And as the days turned into weeks, Tag's new name, Captain Buddy, felt more fitting than ever. He was the calm between the chaos, and his legacy was just beginning to take root. The precinct changed, not in big flashy ways, but in the quiet ones. Dispatchers started leaving dog biscuits beside their keyboards. Officers took turns checking his water bowl. Someone even embroidered Captain Buddy on a spare canine vest and left it by his bed. Tag didn't need to be on patrol anymore. He was the calm between the chaos, the one who listened when the radios went silent. He was the anchor. One rookie fresh out of the academy wrote on the whiteboard, "Captain Buddy has better instincts than most of us." Nobody erased it. It was around that time that Officer Chloe, our newest officer and the one who was always fiddling with her phone, started filming. Without telling anyone, she set up her phone in the corner of the common room and started a series she titled, "Quiet Watch 1 Minute with Captain Buddy." The first clip was just Tag lying in a sunbeam on the tile floor, eyes half shut, breathing slow. Another showed a child placing a crayon drawing next to his bed. The clips had no music, no narration, just presence. Within a week, the clips had over 100,000 views. The comments started pouring in, each one a testament to the quiet power of this dog. "My husband's in hospice. We watch these together every night. I haven't smiled in days until I watched this." Another read, "I used to be a canine handler, lost my partner 2 years ago. This brought him back for a minute. Tag, you're healing strangers you'll never even meet." We printed those comments, taping them to a bulletin board in the hallway. We called it the Wall of Stillness. The Tag effect was real. It wasn't flashy, didn't come with sirens or headlines. It came in whispers and pauses. A woman from the next county with a newspaper clipping in her hand showed up with tears in her eyes. It was a 10-year-old article showing a younger David Thompson kneeling beside Tag at a community event. The caption read, "K9 hero alerts family to gas leak, saves 3. "That was us," the woman whispered. "I was the mom in that house. My little girl's safe because of this dog." That story unlocked something. By the next week, people were driving in from other towns, other states. His photo made the rounds online. One post of him dozing in the lobby beneath the flag went viral with the caption, "This dog showed up at a police station and never left. His story will break you and fix you in the same breath." The most unexpected moment, though, came from a teenager. He sat in the lobby for an hour, red-eyed, clutching a court summons for shoplifting. He finally spoke 3 words, "I didn't do it." When I asked why he came here, he looked down at Tag and then back at me. "Because this dog makes you tell the truth." We helped him find a lawyer that day, and later the charges were dropped. He had come to Tag not to us, not to the badge. He had come to the dog who listened without judgment. Captain Buddy started sleeping more. At first it was subtle, napping longer in the mornings, needing help up the steps into the side courtyard, skipping his usual patrol to the vending machine near dispatch. No one panicked. We just adjusted. We moved his bed closer to the heater, swapped the thin blanket for a thicker one, and Spencer even found a portable fan to keep the air just right. Tag didn't complain. He never did. His tail still thumped when someone passed a slow, deliberate movement that said, "I see you. I'm still here. Don't worry." And that changed how we moved through the building. Officers slowed down when walking past him. Conversations in the bullpen got a little softer. We were living in the in-between. Every breath Tag took felt like a sunrise, every small twitch of his tail a victory lap. On a quiet Thursday morning, a box arrived. No postage, no label. Inside was a folded American flag, a photo frame wrapped in cloth, and a note written in tight, shaky script. My husband was a firefighter. He passed away 2 years ago, but in his last months he always said if he ever came back he hoped it would be as a dog like Tag. Still loyal, still serving. Thank you for keeping his dream alive. We placed the frame on the shelf next to Tag's logbooks and the wooden box of figurines. We sat with it for a while, quiet and still, because some tributes don't need speeches. Then came the Sunday that changed everything. On December 21st, the first snow fell, blanketing the precinct roof like a blessing, soft, heavy final. That morning, Tag didn't open his eyes. His chest rose once, then again, then settled. We sat around him in a loose circle. No one cried, not right then. We just breathed with him, for him. Brian placed the felt badge the little girl had made gently on his side. "Captain," he said, "we got it from here." We didn't say the words out loud. We didn't have to. When Tag's chest stopped rising, time didn't collapse. It folded softly, carefully, like a flag at a soldier's funeral. He left the way he lived, without fanfare, just one final exhale, so calm it felt like a sigh, and then stillness. Not emptiness, stillness. News spread the way grief does in small towns, with quiet nods and long hugs. We carried Tag to the memorial garden behind the station, buried him beneath a newly planted oak tree. No eulogy, no bugle, just the sound of boots on frozen earth and hearts that knew exactly what they were losing. The mayor placed a plaque at the base of the tree. "Captain Buddy, Honorary Officer, Watchdog, Healer. You didn't chase sirens, you answered them." We left his bed exactly where it had always been, in the common room by the heater beneath the string of warm lights. Not as a shrine, but as a reminder. Because grief isn't just about what we miss, it's about what we continue. We started a new log, Volume 4, What Tag Taught Us. Every officer, every visitor, every civilian who came through wrote one sentence, one memory, one change he inspired. I yell less now. I listen before I speak. I finally apologized to my brother. We thought the flow would stop after a week, but it didn't. Tag wasn't gone. He was just everywhere. The precinct felt different, but not empty. Just more intentional. Kids still drop off hand-drawn cards every month. Officers still write in the logbooks. And visitors still sit on the bench beside Tag's empty bed. On New Year's Eve, we gathered at the station. No fireworks, just soup, grilled cheese, and a photo of Tag next to the fireplace. Spencer pressed play on the final tribute video. The last shot was just Tag's eyes, clear, steady, kind. When the screen went black, no one moved. Officer Sanchez finally whispered, "He stayed until we could stand without him." And that's the greatest lesson he ever taught us. That not all heroes bark, not all guardians wear a badge, and not all healing requires words. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just stay. Stay when someone's hurting. Stay when the room is heavy. Stay when nothing can be fixed, but everything can still be felt. So if you ever find yourself standing at a door you're not sure you can walk through, if the world feels loud or empty or too fast to keep up, remember somewhere there was a dog who walked until he couldn't walk anymore, just to lie down by the warmth of a badge and say, "I made it." Thank you for watching. The story of Captain Buddy reminds us that some heroes don't need to chase anything. They just need to be present. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us tell more stories about the everyday heroes, the quiet ones who heal us with their presence. And we want to hear from you. In the comments below, share a story about a quiet hero in your own life. Who taught you the power of just being there? We're listening.